Hey guys, I hate to admit it, I was right. And you have a lot of other content creators. I'm just a small streamer. But I was right, and all these other content creators that are putting the truth on Nintendo, they were right too. We try to warn you that Nintendo will definitely just fuck up. How? Hmm. They admitted that they were just gonna take advantage of the tariffs and just increase the price, put taxes, make the taxes higher illegally. Why? For the sake of pleasing their community. I wonder what kind of community in there for Nintendo exists to get them to take advantage of that. Well, you know how it works when a marketing franchise does things without letting the government know. You do it illegally, now they're vulnerable for being removed as a franchise in the US. I know it hasn't been confirmed yet, but it just could end up being the thing. It could end up happening. Why? Hmm? Because you have actual dedicated only Nintendo Pokemon fanboys. See, you have Pokemon fans, but a lot of these majority of Pokemon fans aren't trying to go against and make Nintendo pressured. And to where one of the persons in their community, Herman Smith. I've heard a lot of these content creators talking about this was the guy, this is one of the guys, and this is one of the reasons why Nintendo makes mistakes. It's because of people like Harmon Smith who just wants to try to kill a small indie studio by letting Nintendo's hear that they're ripping you off. Not really. And the reasons why? When they released the 1.0 update, they no longer look at all like Pokemon. With the 1.0 update, they overhaul. They change the style of the pals, the art. Why? Yeah, they did that so that way nothing in Japan can, how you say it, blame them by putting lies and shit to try to kill a game and the company that would make this game because they would say how you're ripping off Nintendo. Oh, by the way, I know this content creator, this PokeTuber, is gonna be very pissed if he sees this video. That ball gamer, okay? Let me say something. Let me put this fairy tale. Once upon a time, there were Pokemon fanboys like that ball gamer. He prefers Pokemon, and he would get mad like any other Pokemon fanboy who are just mostly supporting and dedicated to Pokemon. And let me say, I remember there was a comment in that ball game streamer, that gamer. This one person in his comment tried to ask him, "Hey, are you gonna stream Pal World or anything?" How did that Balder gamer said? How did he respond? No, I don't play Pokemon ripoffs, especially if they're just. It don't matter if they're taking inspiration from Pokemon. I think they're still just stealing. I don't support a company that makes a game that is stealing from Pokemon. Uh, are you sure it will look like Pokemon? Are you sure they're ripping it off? No. They changed. They wanted to create it now to where they were hoping to create it to not look at all like Pokemon. Well, hey, there's your information. That's confirmed, right? But it's not really fully confirmed. Nintendo is not making enough sales here in these markets to where, because they're not selling, let me just say something. The gaming markets, the game markets that all these games would go to, they had to lower the price, and Nintendo didn't lower it, the game markets did. Like Target, even though that market is in both directions. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hello, little cockroach. Come on, come on. Uh-huh. Well, hmm. Well, rest in peace. Um, so the gaming markets like Target, Target is a variety, right? It's electronic and games. And here's the thing. Nintendo wasn't the one that decided whether their games have to be lowered. No. It is the gaming markets and also consider GameStop. Because, yeah, GameStop is still around, even though they might not last at all very long. But like GameStop and all these other gaming markets, they're like, Nintendo's like, please, sell our game for our price. We want it to be the price we put it. The other problem is, you used the tariffs and took advantage of them, and you never asked the courts and let them know why you increased the price through the tariffs. Here's the thing, like every other Nintendo owner, I'm just saying, I had every single Nintendo system. See, the older one I ended up getting from like a antique shop, and it was a working Super Nintendo. I mean, I know that wasn't the very, very first one, but like, if it is, correct me if I'm wrong. But the ones I used to have first was Nintendo 64, Game Boy, like everybody else, right? I basically had the things like any other Nintendo player would have. I supported Nintendo like everyone else, starting as a kid. I loved their games, but then I never knew that you had their own community telling them to take down another game that was being made by another gaming company if the gaming company took inspiration. But wait a minute, why did they ended up patenting and putting a lawsuit on a company that did not rip off with the prior art, okay? And there wasn't even same mechanics that existed in Pokemon. You didn't have a Pokeball like. The way it worked was it was just a turn base that made a different direction, put it as a monster taming. Uh, which game was this one? I think it was Shin Megami Tensei, right? And that game, there's no at all any type of mechanic that should be the one that takes down that game. if you're gonna try to take it down, it's only for prior art. Okay? You try to take down the original, and I'm pretty sure it had to be Shin Megami Tensei, right? If not, it was another game, but that game didn't have the things that Nintendo would try to take a lawsuit on, right? And then they won that one. I don't know why they were able to win. Well, you have dedicated Pokemon fan only community for Nintendo that will backlash by telling Nintendo they're stealing prior art from you. Mm, wait a minute. Then, how did Nintendo make designs for their Pokemon? Well, my dear Watson, well, their Pokemons actually ripped off from Dragon Quest. Yeah, the monsters that exist in Dragon Quest. Oh, and it gets dark. What happened when Square Enix decided to announce Dragon Quest Monsters on the PlayStation platform? That means Nintendo would be angry. And they'll try to make an excuse by saying, "Oh, we own the IP. This is our game. If it's on our platform, it's ours." Dude, that's not how it works. You only have the publishing rights as an exclusive on your platform. That means you have timed exclusive. It's timed exclusive in your platform. You don't have the permanent rights to an IP that does not really belong to you. Square Enix owns the intellectual properties of the Dragon Quest game franchise. And then the last thing that Nintendo tried to do before they started checking the lawsuits, what it was for, and all of this, yada yada yada. Let me just say something. The Nintendo lawsuit, the Nintendo Pokemon lawsuit against Pocket Pair, Nintendo failed on a patent for monster catching, right? But what happens when the monster catching patent fails? Well, then the throwing mechanic patent fails. Because, let's say, what is the monster catching patent basically? Well, it's just the same thing as throwing patent, right? Those two patents, if you fail the monster catching side of that patent, it is connected together where if you throw a Pal Sphere and then the Pal goes in, yeah, now that other one is just useless. Now here's the bad side. This is another bad thing right here. Let's say Nintendo of America, guys, because Nintendo of Japan, they're linked with Nintendo of America because they're not really completely spread aside. They're still connected to where, why does Nintendo of America, how do they get their communication? Well, what happened? Well, they're saying if you buy the Nintendo Switch 2, if you buy the game, you're only getting what you get, right? You buy it, you got it. It's now yours. So if it's yours, you're not even able to refund it. They're making it sound like you buy it, you keep it. No refunds. We don't have to refund any of our customers, even if their customers are having issues with not just the customer support by trying to get refund, but the Nintendo Switch 2. And I have said this before, to where what happens if the Switch 2 wasn't getting enough bug fixes? Well, if the game's released to the Switch 2 and it just released there and it went live, the game would usually have bugs in the beginning, right? But if the bugs that exist in the Switch 2, if you have a lot of problems with your Nintendo Switch 2 console because you didn't do enough fixes, your original Switch was the better option. You could have downgraded some of these games that would exist on PS5 to where it can match the frame CPU power on the original Switch. And here's the thing. For me, graphics aren't the important thing, but the story and the main whole thing. The story, the lore, the past of the story within the game, like flashbacks or fillers. Those are the important things. The quality doesn't really fully matter, but it does matter to an extent. Because let's say if the gameplay isn't good, it's because there's still bugs, right? And the thing is, when Pokemon had Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, let me just tell you right now, I beated Pokemon Scarlet. Okay? I have it digitally. There's no way for me to refund. And one of those reasons is the customer support for Nintendo of America. They're like, you bought it, you got what you bought. There's no refunds. So, well, let's say if I get angry, to put the truth on a customer support for Nintendo, because let's say the customer support I get contact with while trying to contact the customer support, if that customer support sounds so gloomy, that's how you know it's going to be bad customer support. Oh, God. I'm going to let you know, when I used to call customer support for Nintendo America, let me just say something. They had a Spanish customer support. And this guy was mellow. He is honest. You know, he's friendly. He will make sure he fixed the issue. Because what it is it depends on what customer support employee you end up with on the phone. Yeah. And Nintendo said they just want to hire more employees and not cut any. That's a big problem. Because if you're not making enough money out of the Nintendo Switch 2, because you can't get new customers, you don't want to hire more employees. You want to remove certain employees if those employees are making it more difficult. The way it works is you have employees that just sound really gloomy. But then you have other customer support employees on the other side of that building. They put the positivity and they be nice as long as you know that they'll, understand your problem. Now, let me say, there's not just Spanish employees for customer support there that are good. You have some good customer support employees. But the problem is, you make it where if you're going to call customer support for Nintendo America, you're going to end up with random customer support employees, right? And that's a thing. That has to be a thing. But you should freaking fire the gloomy customer support, because they would also try and be sneaky. If you're the one trying to get a replaced piece of, let's say if you're trying to get a new Joy-Con, and they say their motto is you replace it, you give it us, and we'll replace it free. But if you get in contact with the gloomy, negative emotion customer support, those type of customer support for Nintendo America, they're gonna, do fraudulent. They're going to put a hidden fee. What is Nintendo's motto when they let you give them your one Joy-Con that isn't good? Well, their motto is, you take it us to replace it, we get you one free back. The one that you have problems with, you give it to them, they replace it free, free of charge. Okay, they wouldn't charge you any money. But then you have those other customer support in one of those offices where they usually work as customer support. Oh boy, they pull, they rip you off. Okay, you paid for something, and their motto is, you would send it to us, we replace the one you sent to us with another one for free. But now, Nintendo America CEO says you're not gonna get a refund. You only get what you paid for. Here's the thing, I used to support Nintendo since day one. I was actually a Nintendo junkie. But how did I become a Nintendo junkie? Well, my niece used to play Pokemon too. She played Pokemon Yellow. What happened? I was like, hey niece, what you playing? What's that? And she would say, it's a Game Boy. Oh, what's a Game Boy? Well, you want to see and try it out? Well, she let me try it out, right? To where I was like, ooh, right? But then a Nintendo Game Boy Advance, I was like, ooh, I love this. I love Pokemon, right? But not in the way that I used to anymore. When you see and learn that Nintendo increased the price, they hike up the price of the fee, the taxes of when you buy a system, and then they said in their tweet that we're not going to give you a refund because that's the way our business works. If the person is having, if he has a bad controller, you as a business is supposed to please the customer. Okay? Any type of customer that buys your system and isn't really satisfied with the service of the system, they should be liable for refund. And what happened? You're like, oh, we're not going to give any refunds. That's not how we work. No duh, Sherlock, but you never worked that way. So what happened? Why do you not want to give any customer that is not satisfied with their product a refund? And then afterwards, you try to kill by putting a lawsuit on a small indie game studio that is taking inspiration, but then you fail. Because once you fail the monster catching part of that patent, well, the throwing mechanic patent is going to be useless. Because what is used for a monster catching patent? Well, it's when the Pokeball touches the Pokemon and you catch it, right? The wild Pokemon. Wait a minute. But isn't it still considered a throwing mechanic patent? Damn, man. That one is basically linked straight with the throwing mechanic. Oh, God. And here's the thing. Nintendo used to be pretty good. Uh-oh. Hold on. I spy with my little eye a big chubby. Oh yeah. Hold on. Close eyes. Pepper went jump. Don't ding, don't ding, don't stop. Don't ding, don't, don't. Okay, now where was I up to saying? Where was I saying that? So now the throwing mechanic patent that they want to put on Pocket Pair is useless. And the other thing that is useless, prior art, well, it's no longer something that would actually look like a Pokemon. Maybe some of them may take some looks, but it's not a complete look. To where if Nintendo wants to do it, they'll still fail. See, I already know that Nintendo would just try to continue. Oh boy. See, if Nintendo Japan continues this, they're done, right? See, if you look it up, they will say if the Nintendo Japan business franchise shuts down, the one here will still be able to do and take over to try and continue where Nintendo Japan left off. Wait, I wonder why that is a thing. Here's why. They say it like this, right? We're not intertwined. Nintendo America and Nintendo Japan, we're two separate entities. Two different businesses, even though we're the same franchise. But, like, why? If they lose in Japan, they're still gonna lose here. Why? Nintendo Japan CEO wanted to give Nintendo America the privilege to take advantage of two tariff price hikes with taxes. If you're gonna be considered fraudulent in your own turf, then you're also gonna be considered fraudulent here. Because over here you're already considered fraudulent in your turf. You're not known as a fraudulent business yet. And when I say fraudulent is when you try to pull a fast one with price hikes from your taxes of your system and your gains. Wow. If it ain't gonna last where your side is, it ain't gonna last here in the US. What does fraudulent mean? When you decide to increase the price taxes of your own platform here. I don't know, you tell me. I mean, I know, but I want to know if any person knows why. Why would Nintendo of America also end up getting taken down to fraudulent? And here's the thing. You have stupid people on YouTube. They'll say how, oh, we think the Nintendo games should be up in price. It's worth so much. It's worth to a decent amount of much, right? It shouldn't be over the price that it does not have the value of. Well, you know how it started, right? Well, when they re-released Pokemon Yellow, Blue, and red to the 3DS, when you were going to GameStop to buy that game code, it usually started off as $9.99 plus a little fee in there, made it around $10, right? Well, okay, it would have $1 in there more. It's actually $11. To where then it went up. It went up to $19.99. You know, I feel like if it's an old re-release, it shouldn't have that actual value. It shouldn't be worth so much. Why did you start off as $9.99? Because you knew that was the acceptable price. But now you increase the price without any of the markets for the gaming to know. So now gaming's market retailers are like, why you want to increase the price? Well, it's because the tariffs. And this was also in Trump's first term. You know, this what happened through political reasons. Tariffs, right? But that time, I don't even remember if they let the government and the court know that. Yeah, they did, right? For the 3DS version moments, they did. Now, what happened? Well, they announced the Switch 2, to where they had to end the life cycle of the 3DS. That's understandable. That's fair, right? But in a way, it's not. Because they increased the price of an old Pokemon game that does not have the value of around $20. No, it is worth the amount it is usually selling for, which is not that high. It is a digital code, and the way you had it was actually affordable on the 3DS. Now, afterwards, before you end because you were still working on the 3DS, right? You now heighten the price. That's when it went downhill. That wasn't how much the game was worth. If it's an old re-release, it don't have that high of worth or value. So where now you bring the first Nintendo Switch system, and the first Nintendo Switch system was actually still happening while the 3DS was still somewhat just live, right? So before they shut down the 3DS, before they announced it, that's when they brought new games to the Nintendo Switch, the original one. Now, see, the game prices on the original Switch, that makes sense, right? It'd be what it was, right? But now, you brought the Switch 2. You were probably thinking, oh, let's increase the price. Maybe they'll be okay with it, right? See, the first time they did notify the government about them increasing the price that one time due to tariffs. And Sony, they actually let the court know. But there's another problem, okay? And I understand. Age restriction system. To be honest, that was actually a political problem. Okay? Why? You can say that the Republican side of the party made it where they wanted Sony to implement age restriction. They basically told Sony as a franchise, the CEO there, to where they said, you better sign this age restriction or you will lose your business, right? Or you'll pay severe consequences. But hold on. That ain't your choice, Mr. President Trump, or whatever Republican Party from you who told Sony to do so. Oh boy. And here's the thing. Age restriction does not really work at all well with the PlayStation. That is one of the full-on reasons why Sony has to struggle. It is a political thing, a political problem and issue. Okay? Here's the thing. Democrats, they never supported this, right? They're very aware that the PlayStation platform was not meant for one type of age on that platform. I feel like kids and their parents, if you have a little child playing on the PS5 or PlayStation 4, why doesn't these freaking parents pay attention to what their child tries to purchase? Because the parent would usually keep their credit card information on the PlayStation Store. And one of those reasons is some of these parents also play games, or some of them just gives their children privileges. You know, let me just say something. There's a lot of smarter parents than the one that has their kid alone so he could do stuff behind the back. But the reason why is little children don't really understand. They don't really know better, okay? So where when you see your child purchase a certain game that is like bloody and gore, and then you blame it on Sony, and you want them to implement age restriction, that's why you have to be there to keep an eye on either your 7-year-old kid or 10-year-old kid instead of ignoring what they're doing. To where if you're away for just a minute, your son, your young child's son, will do something that he ain't aware of that he's doing. He don't know how it's affecting, okay? And then you're away, you're in the kitchen. Your little child is in the couch playing the PS5 to where now your child buys a certain game that wasn't meant for his age. That is that's your fault. As a parent, you cannot leave your little child alone when you have him a PS5 or PS4. That is your problem. That is not Sony's problem. Your responsibility is to make sure your child doesn't try to do anything that he don't know what he's doing. But then because you're not keeping an eye on what he's usually trying to play, or if he's gonna buy something and you're not aware why he's buying, parents have responsibility over their own kids, not responsibility over Sony. So where this is one of the reasons, but the other reason is it didn't matter. Because that one side of the government, but is not the good side of the government, they will try to force Sony to sign something to agree to that something by saying, hey, we want you to put age restriction. To be honest, I don't think the CEO of Sony was planning for this whole political thing to affect them, right? But at the same time, they were aware. And that's why they got pressured, right? Like, what happens if they didn't sign a contract for age restriction? Well, the wrong side of the political party is going to screw it up. So you blame it on Sony for putting age restriction. To be honest, they didn't have a choice because this side of the group, these political party on that one side of the group, they would have just killed it off, right? If they don't listen to Trump, and if Trump don't get what he wants, he's still going to try and get what he wants. And his political party is going to get what he wants, right? Well, that ain't Sony's fault, by the way. Sony had no other choice. If they had not agreed to age restriction, then this side would just remove them out of the franchise, right? If you haven't noticed, there were things being seen and known and confirmed about how Trump was trying to get one of his own party to talk to the guard that are actually trying to find evidence of that Epstein files, right? You had evidence of the type of shit he did bad, the darkest stuff. Well, when they get this evidence, Trump is going to end up losing before the midterms even happens. Who knows? Maybe he could be taken down before the month that ends up near his midterms. So, or let's say if the president has dark evidence of himself doing certain things, right? Well, the Secret Service that Trump wants to say is the Secret Service, it ain't. They're not special military force. They're not the side that would protect the American people, right? I wonder what happened to Kash Patel. Hey, does anybody know where I could find Kash Patel? Right? That's what the party would say, right? That's what the Republican Party will probably say. That one moment he was trying to go in to an underground Navy base, right? Where you had submarines in. He was trying to find something to use to expose Trump. So that way he could backstab Trump. Well, he didn't do anything. He couldn't do it, and Trump couldn't do it. Why couldn't Kash Patel do it? There was no way for him to find any evidence down there. He was going to try and do something stupid, take something, and then say, oh, Trump did this. Kash Patel was never on Trump's side. He actually wanted to take Trump out and try to put himself in there. Oh boy, goody, gumdrops. Do I get candy, Daddy? Son, you don't deserve candy. You've been a very bad man. You sit in timeout on that chair in the corner and think about the things you've done. I didn't do nothing. Son, sit there in the corner. That is your timeout. Oh, man. Oh, and I got another joke. Okay, you're gonna love this one. Okay. Trump is the little boy, right? The big guy has a lollipop. Now, say this, right? Come on, Trump, you can get it. Come on. Can you reach it? It's right up here. Ugh, I can't reach it. Give me my lollipop. No, you gotta get it. You gotta get it. Come on. Jump higher. Higher. I can't. I'm too short. Oh, what? You try to catch the lollipop. That was a dirty move. Up here. It's like you're stealing candy. It's like stealing candy from a little baby. And if Trump don't get what he wants, I want my fancy limo now. Please. Son, you're too young to drive, and you don't have a driver's license. Oh, come on, Dad. I won't crash. I'll make sure I be careful. Wow. Oh, boy. And he's supposed to be like, what, 80 years old? Dude. And you have some of these Republican parties that are associated with him. Ooh, they're like little babies, too. That's a nice fancy car. That's mine. I found it. It's mine. Oh, hold on. Cockroach. Hee hee. Yes, man. Okay. Uh, so, what is the other Republican Party doing? Okay, we will try to blame it on the other side. We call this tactic gerrymandering, right? That's how you say it. I don't know how to fully pronounce it, but you're trying to pressure Democrats, right? Hey, I don't see the Democrats pressuring, but you are. Hey, Ted Cruz, why are you running away, bro? Come on. Why? You wanted to step up to the Democratic side, right? Where's that bravado? Where's that toughness, right? Where's that aggressiveness? You're aggressive, but then you're like a coward in Martin. Damn, man. And J.D. Vance, he is considered the vice president. What happened? See, Trump is really desperate to where he relies on J.D. Vance, hoping that J.D. Vance can get back the trust for him. Well, that ain't happening. Hey, J.D. Vance, what have you done, my boy? You didn't get the trust back, did you? Well, no, Mr. President. Well, I got one thing to say. Because I didn't like the way you handled it, you couldn't finish the job. You're fired. Okay? I'm going to go to my rally, and I'm going to say what needs to be said. Hello, citizens, Americans. We're gonna make America great again. You'll see. We already blew one of Iran's villages. We blew it up. And we're making money, folks. Then where's the money? Well, well, you see, I could explain. I am not just a president, I am a dictator, and now I'm a king. You can't have a United States without a king. We must have a king. You know, even though he didn't say that, the way he sings stuff just makes it sound that way, right? And the things he's doing just makes it look that way. That he really wants to lead, but not really lead, but become king. But not for leading, to bring the bad history. And then he plans on implementing foreign law. I checked it up, right? You know, he would try to put the crimes and criminal action from this modern age to use the deaths and slavery of that era where religion, like Jesus, was from, right? The time where the Romans try to control Israel. Wow. Are you gonna do it now? I can't. Congress is trying to stop me. They won't let me use my implementation of foreign law. They don't want to agree to the best law ever. What's so great? Because you say affordable health care would be a thing? That's a lie, right? Now, let me tell you, I support affordable health care, Medicare for all, and Medicaid as a thing to help people such as me with disabilities, but other people with disability problems. Now, let's say if you implement the foreign law, the worst law ever, with Medicare, with affordable health care, wait a minute, how's that going to match? it don't mix well. Why? Let's say if Medicaid and Medicare was still around and foreign law was implemented, you will have gunfire, injuries, deaths. But the person who ends up surviving from that injury, if he goes to a hospital that takes the insurance for Medicare, he's going to have to still go there nonstop, right? You get shot, you live, but you still have to go there. And your Medicare, how does it get covered? Well, when the person who worked and decide to make a union, right? You have to ask the company to help you make a, well, I don't think it's that way at all. But you who have a union, who have money there, because all it is a backup, right? To be able to help you afford through the Medicare. It helps pay it. Your union will cover it. Now, if the person has no more money that is there to support his healthcare service, because you have to go there nonstop. What is healthcare using to cover it, right? The money that adults have in the union, or teen or young adults who work, okay? Any person, any American citizen who would have this, because they would make this, right? They'll sign things so they could, set it. But now, what happens? That money that was there in your union to help you cover, let's say if that money goes low and low and low, you will have nothing to support your health care. It'll be your Social Security. So where what happens if Social Security is used nonstop? Because if the money from what you had to support your health care runs down, let's say what happens if the money from the Social Security runs out? Because the money that you usually have in Social Security, if that is used, that also goes down, right? Because you're going to be left with nothing, because the money you had to support certain things, let's say if you don't have that, and let's say if the Social Security has only so much, right? Because now that money is gone, you're forced to rely on your Social Security. But then you also have to put money from your own pocket to pay that extra bit, to make it where your Social Security don't go down, right? So you don't lose any money there. But the problem is, you lose that, then you lose Social Security, because whatever is being used, whatever is left in the Social Security, that's usually how people get money to their bank, right? Their money would usually come from the Social Security. Social Security is like an extra security, right? They keep your money safe. And it's not just that, they'll transfer some of that money, I believe monthly, back to your bank account. But what happens if you don't have any money left on your Social Security? You are now forced to rely on pocket money. Damn, man. How can people be so stupid? I mean, I know I probably said some things that were probably misleading because I don't understand certain things, but I try to put it as clear as day. Because the way I usually speak, the way I usually say things that happen, and, the words that come out of my mouth is where I'm trying to put it in a understandable way. But there's times where whenever words come out of my mouth and I'm trying to put what you were thinking, what I was saying, that I said wrong, is not me trying to say it wrong. I'm trying to explain it as clear as day. It's just I don't know how some big things work, right? But later down the road, I'm going to have to learn how that works, right? Let's say if I'm left with no home, but I try to work before the house gets taken away, right? so that way I can make sure I'm able to still live in this house. Oh, but there's a problem. Taxes or rent taxes. Let's say if you own a house, the taxes that you're having to do by spending on this house, they're gonna charge huge amount of taxes. But why is the price actually going up? Well, it's the conflict Trump is putting with Iran, which Iran never asked for conflict. You know, this time and era, they were never trying to put this, and they never even had done that. I don't know if you knew this, but I learned a little something. I may not be able to say it clearly, but I'm trying to let you know how I actually try to understand how to put it into words, right? So, what part of that timeline was the reason now about, you know, Palestinians and Iranians? Because those are in the same race, you know. They are kind of that same what nationality. They're Muslims, but, you know, that don't matter. The thing that matters is that Israel has to do stupid things and harm the other side. I don't know if you guys know this, but people are putting misleading history about and misleading evidence on the history of Muslims. Here's the thing: Muslims from, like, you know, Palestinians were basically that one before actual Israel, before Jews actually was a full-on thing, because Iran and Palestinians, they are considered Jews. They're just a different, how you say it, you know, because, you know, Jews were actually considered dark-skinned. Those were the real Jews, right? You have the actual Muslims. Okay, Muslims was before what exists now, right? But like Netanyahu and Israel, they want to bring that dark side of their own nationality by threatening Muslims, Iranian, Palestinian, Iraqians, okay? Pakistanians, right? Dude, they're in that same race as Jews. They are just the same thing as Jews. They're Jews. What were Jews considered? Muslims. But then, you know, they don't want to put that. They just want to say how Muslims are the biggest threat. They're going to try and take our land. You know, Palestinians and Iranians, they never had any interest on trying to put harm and damage on your side. To be honest, there's two separate parts of those towns in Israel, right? One side where Palestinians had the, you know, had the rights to be in that one spot there. Now, what happened? Well, the Jews, the side of Jews in Israel, they didn't want them there. They said, this is our spot. We are going to take it back. What? Well, if you're going to mistreat the other part of Israel, the other side of your race and nationality, then wait a minute. What? But the problem is, here's the thing. Obama actually made negotiations saying this will be their side of this town, this small village here, right? And you will stay in the spot you usually work in, right? You live here on this side. It should be fair, right? They should share the knowledge of Israel fairly. Well, you know, the things that Netanyahu wants to do is that same type of problem from the Roman times where you had religion, you had Jesus, right? But what happened? Because, that Roman timeline, that's when Jesus was hanged on the cross. They tortured Jews. They hanged them on a cross. If you don't follow by their rules, you have to be tortured and feel severe pain. There's a few things I do know that Jesus was put on that cross because the Romans saw Jesus as a threat, right? Because he led other Jews, other Muslims. What happened? Well, the Roman general, he was terrified. And what about Prince Caesar? He was also kind of pressured, right? So what did he tell the Roman general to do? The Roman general that is keeping that one side of that small village, he was the one who is making sure that none of those people can do anything. They have to follow by their law. Caesar, who became the king by replacing, he basically was the one to replace his father's throne. And let me just say something. I'm pretty sure Caesar's father also did wrong. So now Caesar does wrong, right? But he does way worse. His father was sick. He was dead in the bed. He was lying in the bed and he died in the bed, right? Or on the throne of the king chair, right? The chair, whatever. That chair is considered a throne, okay. But wow. King Caesar's father had to die on the chair, on the throne. And then they decide to, Prince Caesar, I'm pretty sure he had to just say, I remove my father. I'm going to take his place. I am going to do what my father couldn't finish. Oh, shoot. So then you're trying to use God's name upon everyone by judging any person or race or gender or what's going on? And this time period, it shouldn't have been a thing because it ain't a thing, It is somewhat of a thing where Jews were the ones who relied on the United States for things, and then they'll also steal. They'll steal evidence or certain things, right? How? What? And you do have some good Jews, man. You got some really good Jews. They help people in nursing homes, I'm just going to say this. There's some really good dang Jews that work in the nursing home that my mom is in near our spot here. And the thing is, I'm going to be visiting my mom tomorrow because that's something I have to do. The thing is, I couldn't really go there enough because I had a lot of depression, sometimes worries, But, yeah. It's not easy having to see your family member, right, in a bad shape of either dementia and Alzheimer's. It's hard because there were a lot of things that I had to face and be in front of. I'm just going to say it. Some of my family in this house, like my dad who's keeping check, he's trying to, make sure I don't do something completely stupid. And I'm going to let you know, guys, if it wasn't for my dad's guidance, if he had not helped me see me, oh boy, I would have been that type of kid that I used to be where I just slam things in the floor, but with a temper tantrum that is not normal. When you backlash things when you have ADHD, and I only have slight autism. If it was fully autism, who knows, right? Maybe. But I know there are some people with full on autism that they're never doing stuff like that. They're mellow. They're quiet. Some of them, they just get excited to where they make loud noises. But never judge a person because he's disability. Do not say it as he's retard because he has a lot of disabilities, including even if it's slight autism. So has anyone judged you? If they did judge you, there had to be a reason, right? Mm-mm. You do not do that. So where nobody else has to do it back. And when people do it back, it's just to put the truth, to convince that person that he is in the wrong. And if that person who is in the wrong don't want to admit he's in the wrong, I don't know what to say. You need help, buddy, right? A person who doesn't look or feel like a normal person, who would just destroy things, right? Or commit a crime. That person must have some serious mental issues. He really needs mentally help, right? If you don't get that person help, but the thing is, sometimes it won't really help to help, right? It doesn't work to help. Because with certain people, they're way far. They don't know how to do right anymore. People struggle. They make things and they make excuses. Before I end the stream here, I just want to let you guys know that there was a prankster call, okay? And this person did the stupid type of prank, right? They did a prank that made it to where I had to worry, actually, and my dad. You try to pull a prank, trying to make it look like my sister was in an accident? And I'm going to say it right now. Whoever that prankster was, if you try and call my phone, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to ask you, how old are you? Right? And then I'm going to ask you, have you ever had friends? And if you say either yes or no, I'm still not going to take you seriously. Okay? But if you end up responding saying no, then I'm going to be like, oh, no wonder why you don't have friends. You don't know how to make friends. You don't know how to make good friends. Instead, you make terrible friends who also like to do bad pranks to make other people feel heartbroken. So if whoever who is calling our house to prank, if you do call, I either won't answer or I'll put the troll back on you. Because how would it feel if I put that troll and that prank back at you? Tell me, how would you feel? Would you feel that same hurt as me? Oh no, you'll get angry. Why? Because you didn't even fool me that second time, right? You fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. And here's something I made up that follows up, right? Fool me a third time, I hang up. I don't want to deal with you. See? I would pressure you because you like to make other people like me or my dad miserable. But not in the way of miserable. Just heartbroken. So don't ever do that shit. Okay? And let me just let you know. I support the Democratic Party, even though I can't really vote yet, because this guy in the White House is trying to prevent younger people, younger citizens, to be able to vote, right? That's what happened the first time, too. You know, the first term he was going to try and do that, right? He didn't get the chance to do that his first term. He almost did it. Well, okay, he did do it. Because when I used to go to the spot here to register to be able to vote, because we had to send papers, right? My dad put and sent the papers to the place that they usually check and say, okay, he's liable to vote. He's a citizen, he can vote. You know why? Any citizen has the right to vote, right? I'm gonna say something. I will say this. If a Republican looked like he knew, if you see a Republican and you feel like he's good, right? Okay, vote for him, right? But if he's gonna put some really weird arguments, then no. But if the Democrat is no good, if one way or the other, if Democrats don't do enough, and if you don't see it as, or if you don't see Republicans doing anything at all, because think about it, Trump, Ted Cruz, and other people by him, they're not really doing anything. They said, we have made security much higher. Wait a minute. There's never police cars trying to take care of criminal actions over here in the neighborhood where I'm at. You usually see actual cops making sure over here is usually safe, right? Well, all those polices have to be there. Secret Service, the special military force that is there to keep the president out of harm's way. That's no good, right? They're actually not going to protect Trump anymore. Why? Well, let me just say this. Donald Trump tried to steal, and he did end up stealing a jet from Qatar, right? But who helped him take it? Well, J.D. Vance. He was the one who, helps Trump steal, right? And then lies saying, they decided to give me a new nice Qatari jet. Do you believe that? They're such nice people. But then, they're nice people, but they're going against me. I am going to have to get the military to bomb them. Hello? U.S. military ain't getting involved there. It's Jews, Israel. I'm gonna get it off. I gotta clean the dish.